Welcome to Even the Dog Has ADHD, because apples don't fall far from trees and it's never just one. Today's episode is for you if you've ever looked around your home and thought, how did it get to be like this again? If clutter leaves you feeling overwhelmed or maybe ashamed, or perhaps you've noticed how your external world mirrors your internal world, this episode is just for you. Because having neurodivergent minds means our environment isn't just background noise, it's our whole nervous system. The piles, the cupboards, the shoes by the door, all of that holds stories about how we're coping, what we might be avoiding, or what we might be ready to let go. Today's guest, Caroline, a professional organiser and understander of neurodivergent minds, will introduce herself to you in just a moment. So, if you have tried all the systems, the baskets, the habit trackers, and you still don't have peace in your home, today's episode is for you. And now I'm delighted to hand over to our guest, Caroline.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here today. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Yeah, so as you said, my name's Caroline. I am originally from the UK, but the last 20 years I have been living in Germany, so expat life. And I am a professional organiser and KonMari consultant, predominantly supporting families with neurodivergency.
Okay, so we got chatting, didn't we, when you, in your community, you run little mini webinars for your clients, and you reached out and you say, would anybody like to come and give a talk? And I thought, oh my gosh, clutter has been part of my upbringing my whole life. Neurodivergence from parents to me to little one, and thinking, yeah, it's not just about clearing a room. And we got chatting, didn't we,
We did.
about that. So do you want to share a bit about what you've noticed in your community with neurodivergence?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I should start by saying that I am naturally very disorganized. I really struggle. And going back sort of 14 years, my kids were really little at that time and I was really struggling. I was feeling very, very overwhelmed. I really was feeling emotionally, I would go as far as to say unstable. I just like everything was just too much. I wasn't being very present for my kids. I didn't feel I was had a really short fuse with them. And my sister sent me from the UK a copy of Good Housekeeping magazine. And in there was an article about the KonMari method and the book that Marie Kondo had just brought out. And I read this article and the woman said how life-changing it had been. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. Got onto Amazon and ordered the book. And the rest, as they say, is history. I started to put it into practice in our home, taking it really slowly because 3 little kids at home, I didn't have much spare time. And then one day we were leaving the house and we sort of all got our coats and shoes on and whatever, and it was calm. And I hadn't noticed that it was calm, but it was all easy, which in the past it hadn't been. And suddenly my middle child, who was about 5 at the time, said to me, "Why are you a nicer mummy now?" And I was just so shocked because I hadn't realized the effect that our home environment and the clutter and the stress of not knowing where things were and not feeling in control had been having on me and how I was showing up for my kids. So fast forward to 2020 and COVID, and the business I was running at that time, which was teaching small kids, I couldn't do. And I saw online that you could train to be a KonMari consultant. And I didn't even know this was a thing. But I said to my husband, I'm gonna do this because This method has changed our family life so incredibly. I want to help other families find that peace. I don't want to just keep this for me. I want to be able to share it. And I have got 3 children who are all neurodivergent. I've got one with autism and ADHD, one with ADHD, and one with dyslexia. And we suspect ADHD, but we'd always put everything down to dyslexia. So I have really learned over the years how to support each of them individually, and realize that actually how I find our home in an organized state, which is organized enough for me, is not organized enough for my husband. And he has a different way of doing things as well. And it was like, suddenly I was like, oh my goodness, that's what I need to help people with. This idea of there is not a one size fits all. And yes, there's the KonMari method, but that's what I love about it. It's what sparks joy for you. What's your ideal lifestyle? So we can look as a family at what our ideal lifestyle is. What does everyone want from our home? How can it support us, rather than just being like a glorified storage unit, which is what a lot of people's homes have become? And how can we get our home environment to make us feel at peace and give us the calm and the structure that we need to support, especially in my children's cases, their neurodivergency? What is going to help them with transitions? What is going to help them feel calm? What's going to help them feel regulated? And that's different for each of them. And I need something different as well. So it's really looking at how that works within our home environment. And that is what I have gone on to support my one-on-one clients with. And I now have as well an online membership, Clutter Free Collective, which is full of women from all around the world, some of whom are neurodivergent, some of whom aren't, some have neurodivergent kids. There's a real mix, but I found a way of being able to show people that you can find what works for you. You don't have to have some cookie cutter method. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I will give you suggestions and we'll work through it together until we find what works for you and for your family. So that's basically where I'm now coming at it from.
Now, I'd like to unpack the cliche, whatever brings you joy. And like the cliche that I've got in my head is hold a thing. Does it give me joy or not? And getting rid of that. That's what I have, but it's so much more than that, isn't it? And I remember when we were chatting previously about, and you mentioned it just now, leaving the house. Like that's a 2-hour epic thing. And my dogs have a look. And even now, like, even though I think I've got the system, it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And particularly my spaniel has a particular look that he's just like, okay, am I going to wait for you on the sofa or in the hallway?
Are we ever going to get out of here? No, it is. And it's this, by the time we then close the front door to leave, we're feeling so stressed and wound up that we go into the next thing not feeling regulated. And that's not okay for us. And it's not okay for the people we're about to interact with, because we're not showing up as our best selves. And I also think it works in reverse. If you like you've had a really busy day and you come home and you open your front door and you're just faced with chaos, that doesn't help you unwind and relax and sort of regulate yourself again. So it just is so important in every aspect. And you're quite right. This hold it in your hand, does it spark joy for you, is what has become, as you say, the cliche, because that's what Marie Kondo says in her book. And it's what she then demonstrated in the Netflix series. And there was this big thing of like, does it spark joy? And her with her little joy thing that she did. And it seems a bit silly, but it does actually work. And it is really important. But then people will say to me, okay, well, how can a kitchen knife spark joy? Well, it can, because it helps you prepare meals that you are going to enjoy and nourish you and, so keep you healthy. It might be that the knife cuts particularly well. It might be that it feels really good in your hand, like the handle does, or the weight of it. And what sparks joy for me in a kitchen knife may not spark joy for my husband. He will take a different knife to me if we're doing vegetables. And one of my daughters takes a different knife again. So when you end up decluttering, you're looking at a space and you're going, okay, what sparks joy for me? And you should really start with you as the person doing the KonMari method. But for things like communal areas like the kitchen and knives and things, it's okay, well, this would be my knife of joy, which would be yours. My husband will show me. And then you end up with perhaps 3 knives that you realize everyone uses, and the other 5 can go because they never get picked up because they don't spark joy for us. We leave them in the drawer. And the same with mugs. Like, we've all got our favorite coffee mug for first thing in the morning, and that's the one we grab. And then I've got I have my tea first thing in the morning, and then I have a coffee mid-morning, and I have another mug that I always use for that. I would never take a different mug unless that one wasn't available. But no one uses my mugs because they don't like those ones. They've got theirs. So you can look at your mug collection and say to everyone, okay, grab the one that sparks joy for you most, right? Put those to one side. Now we can look at which would your second favourite be. Okay, so say there's 4 of you. We've now got 8 mugs. Are 8 mugs enough for us? Or do we need a few more than that? What if we had people come round? How many do we need? Okay, our maximum number we need is this. Right, we wouldn't ever choose to use the others, so we can let them go. And that's how you sort of use it without it becoming this cliche that you stand there holding everything going, does it spark joy?
So I've got, so that's beautifully illustrates kind of the like how you can go right down to like a cutlery drawer.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and the other thing that comes to my mind within my own life is that decluttering is a constant. It's a constant. How did I get more stuff? I didn't even realize I was getting more stuff, and it's become full again, even with kind of rhythms and routines. So
Yeah.
what's your sort of thoughts on something like that? You know, there's more coming in, but
Yeah.
not enough is going out.
Exactly. And we live in this consumer society now where we're being bombarded all the time with adverts to buy things and the next shiny object. And especially when you have ADHD, the dopamine hit of buying new stuff that you get and ordering stuff online and it arriving, that is a very, very real problem that I see with a lot of my one-on-one clients whose homes I go to, that between visits there will be have so much more come in because they've been dopamine shopping basically. So the way I work at it with my membership is that we look at decluttering not as a one-time event, but something that we're slowly doing, and it becomes, as you say, part of our routine, part of our rhythm, part of our lifestyle. And you know how you read about, oh, well, if you do this diet, then you have to stick to it. It becomes a lifestyle change.
Mm.
I think decluttering for your mental health is one of the best things you can do. Having a home that you feel in control of and you're not searching for that really important piece of paper 2 minutes before a meeting and getting majorly stressed is like self-care like no other.
Yeah.
And so there's no problem with it being an ongoing thing, that it becomes our rhythm, that 15 minutes every day we do a reset. We notice if we haven't put something back away. We're recording this on a Monday morning, and I've actually posted in my membership Facebook group this morning, we're starting a week of put the damn thing away, which is what we do very often. And every day there will be a reminder. And like the idea being that every time they go to put something down, rather than putting it away, they're going to go, no, put the damn thing away, and put it away straight away so that the clutter doesn't build up. So that's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect, as you said, is there's so much stuff coming in. Once you have decluttered and organized nearly everything in your home, like nearly every drawer, every cupboard, your shopping habits really start to change. You start to become so picky about what comes into your home that it goes down hugely, the amount that's coming in. And this is something that the ladies in my membership have really noticed. They are not buying tons of shampoo because it's on offer. They're not buying loads of clothes on a whim, because they're actually thinking to themselves, okay, this t-shirt that I've really at the moment feel like I have to buy because it's on sale for £5 and it's like an
Mm.
absolute steal. No, it doesn't spark joy for me that much. I've got other t-shirts at home and I actually have enough, and I don't love this as much as any of those, so I don't need it. I'm not going to buy it even though it's a really good deal.
So
And
it's
that stops the amount.
that stops the amount, but there's been a mindset shift before you get to that point, hasn't there?
Absolutely. And that takes time and that takes practice. It's like building a muscle. And I say to people, we actually had this discussion with someone yesterday in one of our online decluttering sessions. She said, it seems to be the more I organize, the more I find I have to let go. And then I look in a cupboard and think, well, why have I still got that? And it's because when we do our first declutter of a drawer, we're really sure we still need those things.
Mm.
But as we practice the muscle of what really do I need, what serves purpose in my life, what sparks joy for me. And I think another way of looking at sparks joy is, does this serve a purpose in my life? Does it make my life easier? Like, you wouldn't really normally think that a pair of scissors are going to spark joy. But yes, having a pair of them is really helpful because they're going to allow you to cut things and create things and craft. And so that's the bit that sparks joy. So the more you go on, you start to realize, okay, actually, I did think I needed that, but I've now realized that I don't. We don't use it and it's not something we need to keep. I'm now ready to let that go. And the letting go with gratitude bit, which lots of people think sounds really woo, but it is so important to this mindset shift, because when we let go with gratitude, like, thank you that I've had you in my home. It was really useful for a time. But it's time for me to donate you and for you to move on and serve a purpose in someone else's home. That gratitude makes this shift really, together with the sparks joy, that, okay, do I need this item in my home before you buy something new? And it does take time. But I
Mm.
have people now who've been in my membership for around 20 months, as long as it's been going. And they notice now their buying habits have changed so much and they don't have this quantity of stuff coming in. So what they're decluttering now is things that they've realized over time that they hadn't let go, but they can now.
That there's a couple of things that I really would love to sort of focus on what you said about serving a purpose and the emotional attachment to memory, because that's often
Huge.
a huge thing. And also with neurodivergence, out of sight, out of mind, like with
Yeah.
the shopping, like, oh, I'm ordering this. Oh, okay. I've already got that you find a year later.
Yeah.
A stockpile that you put in a safe place. And then the other piece is letting go with gratitude. And that really resonates. I held on to my son's baby stuff. I just wasn't ready to
Mm-hmm.
let go. And come to lockdown, there was someone having a baby in the same season, also a boy. And that letting go with gratitude, just, it felt joyful.
Yeah.
It felt really liberating. And there was no condition with it, just to be able to let go freely with all of this stuff. And I bumped into this mum recently. I think the kiddo must be like 5 or 6
5. Yeah.
now. Yeah. She said that it was so helpful, and then she'd been able to pay it forward.
Yeah.
So that kind of ripple effect. But I wasn't able to let go until I was ready, and I can't think of what that shift was. He is an own well, I have a stepson, but he's the only child that I had, and there was an element of that going on associated with baby stuff. So that
Yeah.
emotional attachment, being grateful and letting go. And then the other thing that precipitated that is, what purpose is it serving me right now? There going to be people right now in an extreme time of need. What have I
Yeah.
got?
Yeah. You're exactly right. And I think one thing that really helps with letting things go is when you know it's going to a good home, or it's going to serve a purpose for somebody, or the charity that you donate it from by selling it are going to make money for their charity and you love that particular charity. If we know that our belongings are going to be useful and aren't just going to get put in the trash, it's so much easier to part with them. And you're quite right. You very often have a season of life where you're not able to let go of certain things, and that's fine. But there will come a time, which is why I think it needs to be this ongoing process all the time, when you come back to that place where certain things are stored that you 2-3 years ago said there is no way I am getting rid of these, and you're now ready to, because enough time has passed, or your letting go muscle has been trained enough for you to realize that actually the less stuff you have in your home to deal with, the calmer you feel. And it becomes almost addictive, almost this, like the people in my membership will say, once they get started, they can't stop, and it actually becomes fun. I mean, and who would have thought decluttering and organizing your stuff could be fun? But it does, because it's like yesterday, my ladies were having their online decluttering session because we do body doubling together, so that they've got that accountability, which when you've got ADHD, that is so, so important. And I let go of some things from my previous business that I had stored in a cupboard here in this room that I'd been hanging on to. And then yesterday evening, I came back and I opened the cupboard and there were all these empty shelves and this feeling of like, oh, space.
Yeah.
Now I've got other things that are standing around elsewhere in the home that I can put away in there. And that area is then going to look clearer. And it sort of is a bit like playing Tetris with your home all the time. Once you clear a space, you can move other things around to the right place they should be in. And it's just like an ongoing flow. And the other thing that I think is really important to mention about letting items go is that very often, well, no, not very often, I believe really strongly, items have an energy attached to them. And once that item has left your home, if it had a very negative energy attached to it, say from a previous marriage or a relationship that had broken down, the lightness you then feel of having made that decision and like made that separation final is huge, absolutely huge. So I think all those things sort of tie together. So that's the emotional piece. And then you mentioned out of sight, out of mind. And this is a huge problem for people with ADHD. And this is why I drive my husband nuts. And I should clarify, I do not have an ADHD diagnosis, but I have 3 children who are neurodivergent and their father clearly isn't. And I highly suspect that the ADHD bit has come from me. And that's why I've struggled so much over the years with time management, organization, all those things. And I am the same. If I put something away in a cupboard, it doesn't exist anymore. It's like literally gone. So I leave things out on surfaces around my home to remind me that I need to deal with them. And this drives my husband crazy because he would love clear surfaces, but that doesn't work for me. I have to leave it there until it's dealt with, and then I can put it away in the right home where it does belong. But I need this visual reminder. I also have a notebook, a planner that I write in every day, every single thing that I have to do. And that includes the washing, putting the washing away, if I have to pop to the chemist and pick something up, everything. And then all my work things as well. And then I got this visual reminder there as well. And that is what I have learned for me, for my brain, it works brilliantly. It would drive someone else crazy having these what look like to-do lists all the time. But it just keeps me feeling calm because I know I can't forget anything. So the other thing people with ADHD very often do is they leave doors open. So they'll walk back into the kitchen. But why are the kitchen doors open? And it's because they've looked for stuff and then walked off and not closed them. And all these sort of quirky things that happen. But actually, it's really important to be aware of them because you can't make improvements to systems that are going to support you if you're not aware of what you actually struggle with. and
Yeah.
you're not aware of the fact this actually is attached to my ADHD. It's not that I'm lazy, it's not that I'm disorganized. I literally can't do this unless I have a trigger, or I have a reminder, or I have a system in place. And then it's not going to work every day. And what I very often find for me and for my clients that I work with is I can set a system up to remind me that I've got something in that cupboard and I need to make sure I buy a replacement or whatever it happens to be. And because I've set a new system up, I get like a bit of a dopamine hit. Oh, this is fun. And it works for a few weeks and then it will stop working.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really important to be aware of that. And this is why I think when you're part of something like a membership or a community where you have ongoing daily support and reminders, you can then let everyone know, okay, that stopped working for me. And then we can all work out how we're going to support you to try something new.
Yeah.
And that will work for a while because we don't want to give up and feel like we've failed, because we haven't failed. It's just it's stopped working for us at this moment in time. And rather than giving up, it's like, okay, let's make this fun. Let's try something new.
Yeah.
Let's try a new game.
And I think that's really key, isn't it? It works until it doesn't work, but
Mm.
having a way to respond to that, and like you're saying, like that safe place of mutual accountability is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Not having the judgment, and that it is really hard because we haven't even touched on executive dysfunction and how that plays out. And like walking around with a bunch of bruises on your body that you don't know where it's come from, or
Yeah.
you alluded it a bit too, when all these cupboard doors are open, you won't even remember leaving them open.
No.
You literally will not remember, and it's not intended to. And having to make that habit of shutting the door,
Yeah.
the cupboard door that you open, and the amount of intention that is required, where somebody without any kind of struggles open, close. Like,
Yeah.
the issue there? What's the issue? And then we will mention the rummaging that goes on once it's
Oh,
open
yeah.
and left, and stuff taken
Yes.
out,
Yes.
shoved
But
back in.
except that once you've got your cupboards organized and optimized, their rummaging stops because you can see everything. And this is what is really important for the ADHD brain, that you can see everything at a glance, that nothing's hidden behind anything else. So I always recommend not having like rows of things in a cupboard so that the stuff at the back you can't see, or rows of things on your top fridge shelf, like you've got your jam jars and jars of stuff. So the jars at the back, you can't see them, you forget they're there. So I have turntables so that I can move the turntable round and visually see everything that's in there, so that nothing gets forgotten and left and then I have to throw it out, which is wasteful. And I think going back to your thing about doors being left open, it's also deciding, like, does that really matter in the grand scheme of things? If I
Yeah,
come back into the kitchen and I've left the kitchen doors open, cupboard doors open, so what? Maybe if you live with lots of other people and they find it frustrating, okay, then it's something to work on. But if actually it's not bothering anybody and you come in and you're just like, oh, and you can close the doors, great. Pick your battles.
yeah,
Choose the thing. Like, we have a limited energy resource, we have a limited amount of focus that we can give to things during the day. So really pick your battles. What is the thing that is going to move the needle for you? What is the thing that if you could change how you do this each day, it would actually improve your quality of life? And for me, to start with, that was actually just getting the kids out of the house without it turning into some sort of 2-hour ordeal, as you said before, that it was just quick and calm. And I already knew that that's where everything was. And the way I did that, and this is where executive dysfunction sort of will reference, it was like, okay, how am I going to make this easy?
yeah,
Why is this becoming hard? Okay, it was becoming hard because when we got to leave the house in the morning, the things weren't where they should be. So
yeah,
it was okay, when we come in the house, I need to intentionally make sure that the kids learn to put their shoes in one place, to hang their coat up, and to put their bag somewhere. And we worked on that for months. And
Mm.
like me not nagging them, not, oh, why haven't you put your shoes away? But gently saying to each of them, oh, look, there are your shoes. Where did we say we were going to try and put them back to? Can you make them walk there, or what, in a fun way? So that over time they built the habit. And then for me to say, okay, if I know tomorrow morning is going to be really tight on time, that evening I go and I just make sure that in that space everything is where it should be, so that when I bring 3 little kids in there in the morning to get them ready to leave, I'm not having to look for anything in this sort of like time compressed thing. So it's like thinking ahead and really making it small steps. And during that time where I was training us and me, trying to get the entranceway sorted, I didn't try and do anything else. I just worked on that. And once we got that nailed and that was calm, then I moved on to the kitchen, because that was the next thing that was driving me crazy. That every time I went to cook a meal for the family, I was having to clear the surfaces first, and I couldn't find what I needed and all the rest of it. So I gradually picked my battles and let the small stuff just go, and just deal with the things that were going to make a difference to our everyday life. And I think that's important, and it should be quick and it should be manageable so we don't get overwhelmed.
So there are a couple of things that kind of come up. We've mentioned it a couple of times when we've been chatting about, does it matter really? And when are you ready energetically to do something? And something that comes to mind is the loss of a parent and the decluttering of their home, and grieving and being ready to pass things on. And there's often a pressure to sell the family home to get that clear and what have you. And from lived experience and witnessing stuff, there's lots of cycles, isn't there? There's a 3 month, and then there's a shift, and then it's a year, and then there's the next bit is kind of like 3 years. And sort of in my own life, I could not face doing the stuff, and I just shoved it all in a lockup, which is
Yeah.
costing financially, but not having the emotional bandwidth to go to it, and now being ready. But there's a cost to that. And all of what we're talking about, there's an emotional cost to ourselves, and like with the shopping and what have you, and then there's a financial cost
Yeah.
as well. And I really, really believe, time and money are deeply spiritual things that shape our lives. And rather than being kind of at the mercy of not having enough of either, how we make the shifts that are energetically that we are able to do. And
Yeah.
you mentioned, when you are ready to get rid of something, like you said with your business, your old business, and there's this empty cupboard now. So when you're ready to let go of the old, to usher in the new,
Yeah.
and not, it's almost, for those people who've given birth, it's almost like that. There are times when you push, and then there are times that you rest.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the same with creating the routines that you're talking about. Pick your battles, focus on areas that are causing you, say, the most distress. So the hallway was causing distress,
Yeah.
then it was the kitchen, and then sharing this bit of like, okay, that was my birth family life. Like, okay, like I have my own family, and okay, but I've still got to deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
But
It's
there's
really interesting you bring up about the loss of a parent, actually, because I've just recently, for my podcast, done an episode where I've interviewed 3 women who have lost their parents in the last year, lost their mothers actually in the last year, and are having to clear the homes. And I interviewed them about how that's been. All the circumstances were really different. Some of them really traumatic, the amount of stuff that now has to be got rid
yeah,
of. And I think one of the things that stops us dealing with the business of the decluttering, whether it's in that situation or just in our everyday lives, is because we think it's such a huge thing that we have to do, and it's going to take hours and hours, and how do we even
Yeah.
start?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why, for people that are new to my membership, I actually encourage them not to just get started on decluttering. I encourage them to actually just look, do nothing, just look at the pile, just
Yeah.
look at the room. Don't do anything about it, just look at it. Have a think how you feel about it. Have a think, if you were to start, what might be a good place? And
Mm.
then go and leave it. And then go and look again another day. And maybe you feel ready to start ordering things according to category, which is a really good thing with the KonMari method, that we bring everything together in categories so that you can see how many you've got of a said item. And then you're like, oh, well, I don't need 15 pairs of scissors in the house, clearly. Or, if you're inheriting wine glasses from a parent that's passed, well, I've already got so and so many wine glasses in my home. Look how many I've inherited from my mother. When I've got all hers together, do I love these more than the ones I've got? Would I like to keep a few as a memory? Do I want to swap hers out for mine? Think about what is logical then in that situation. That takes the emotion out of it then. But because we think we have to get started and spend hours on it, you don't. 10, 15 minutes. Or when we did our co-working yesterday, we did 25 minutes where we all worked on something. Then we came back together and all had a chat about how it was going and were we feeling stuck on anything. And then those people that wanted to spent another 25 minutes on it. And some of them may have then carried on once we got offline and we're no longer together. But some people will now wait until our next body doubling session, and then they will carry on. It does not have to be something that takes over your life and you're permanently doing. And I think when you're faced with, like you said, all your parents' things in a lockup, then you feel like, well, if I go there, I'm going to have to spend hours and hours going through it all. Give yourself permission to just go and do 15 minutes, set a timer and see how you're feeling. And if you feel like carrying on, great, you can, but you don't have to. And when we take the pressure off that we have to do this and it's a chore, and no, we're privileged that we get to do this.
Yeah. And that's really, really key, that mindset of we get to,
Yeah.
and whatever's manageable
Yeah.
for
I mean,
you in
yeah.
that moment. It may be an hour next week. It may be 10, 15 minutes
Yeah.
in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
There's that energetic flow within you that if it's going to, it's probably not as bad as you think it is, and take the baby step
Yeah.
and just see what happens with that baby step is really key.
Yeah.
And also the whole grieving process that's kind of woven in with that is quite huge
Yeah.
as well, and processing, because it will also bring up for people unresolved stuff from childhood that
Absolutely.
that often comes up,
Yeah.
and what emotionally and energetically you may be holding on to that you don't have to hold on to, and then the link with material items within that.
Yeah.
And as you say, like, not just the grief and all the rest of it around the previous generation, but you mentioned briefly, maybe a family that where there's been family breakdown,
Yeah.
and material possessions and associations there. And as you said right at the beginning of our episode, how your environment and how that impacts you emotionally is actually huge.
Yeah.
Whether you disassociate from it
Yeah.
or you're just in it and it's full on.
Yeah. I agree. And it amazes me when I'm in people's homes how often we will find somewhere hidden away in the bedroom a box of items that have been put there. Sorry, my dog's just come to say hello. Hopefully, you can't hear him groaning away here.
Yeah.
Yeah, a box of items that have sort of an emotional energy to them that is really negative, and they're in your bedroom where you're trying to sleep and relax and be peaceful. I mean, it's just crazy. So, yeah, we can let those things go.
Yeah. Does he want to say hello? Which one? Which one is it?
This is Nugget, who is my son's therapy dog. And he was asleep, but he's obviously decided he wants some attention.
My two are asleep, and the cat, one of the cats. Well, you might be able to see one. It depends.
I saw a dog earlier on the sofa, yes.
Yeah, no, he's there, little buddy. So just as this has just been so lovely, and I'm sure that this will resonate with a lot of people. I also think one thing we haven't touched on all the way through this is the shame that's involved with
Yeah.
all of this, and the judgment of others. And I remember as a new mum, someone who was not even in a relationship coming to see the new baby and just saying, "Do you think a cleaner might help?"
Very helpful. Very helpful. Thank you. There's a huge
Thanks.
amount of shame. I mean, one of my friends actually is slightly horrified now that I have my podcast and my Instagram, and she's been looking at this and she had no clue. But when my kids were little, every Friday afternoon, she would come over to my home. We'd all hang out, we'd go out to the playground or whatever with our kids because they were all similar age. Then she would come back to mine and we would cook dinner together for the kids and we'd give them their dinner and then she'd go home. Well, Friday up until she came, every week was this crazy gathering stuff up, throwing it in cupboards, shutting the door, hiding everything in my bedroom in laundry baskets that I'd collected from around the house, because I didn't want her thinking that I hadn't got it all together. I wanted to give the impression that we were a tidy, organised home. The shame of the piles was too big for me to let her see them. I've actually got better. I've done a lot of work on myself now, and I've got to the point now where actually I don't care what other people think. It's my home. But it's taken me a long time to get there. And I must say that my living space now, like from when you walk in the front door, the ground floor, is always now at a point where I can happily invite someone in. The floor might not be particularly clean because we've got 2 dogs and 2 cats running around, but it looks decluttered, it looks organized, it's tidy. I'm quite good now at putting the kitchen stuff away when I've used it, and the kitchen looks clear and everything's open plan. So that is good. Whereas in the past, I would open the door and then I'd sort of stand there nonchalantly with my arm across the doorway, blocking it so that people were very clear from my body language they were not being invited in. So, but not every area of our home is as tidy as the ground floor. But even if someone went wandering around, I don't care anymore. How we choose to each have our bedrooms is entirely up to us. And how my office is up to me. It's me that's in here. So, and my mother-in-law has got a very high expectation for tidy and clean more. And I'm not a clean freak. I'm not into cleaning. I like things to look tidy, but I'm not so fussed about the cleaning bit. So, and she did actually come to stay the other weekend, and I did do my usual weekly clean that I would do on a Friday morning, but I didn't go mad. And I used to deep clean the house for a week before she came. I mean, I was obsessed what she was going to say, and she'd still find dust somewhere. So but that's taken an awful lot of work on me to get me to that point where I don't care. And this is another thing that I work on hugely in my membership: the mindset shifts, the habits, the acceptance of this is how we are. We're doing the best we can. It doesn't actually matter what anyone else thinks, as long as we're okay in our home environment. And the other thing that I'm always saying, to link to the shame thing, is what is tidy enough for you might not be tidy enough for someone else, because
Mm.
we all have our level of tidy in which we feel calm. And it took me a
Exactly.
long time to work that out as well. Lots of people would come into my home and feel it looks cluttered because I have quite a few ornaments and decorations, and I like to have things around that make me feel happy and I like looking at. Whereas if a minimalist walked into my house, they'd be like, oh, couldn't live here. It looks way too cluttered. But compared to how it used to be, there aren't the piles everywhere. That's the
The
difference.
doom piles.
But what if, if there are a few piles, so what? As long as you're okay with them and you know where everything is and you feel calm in your space. The problem is when your home is making you feel overwhelmed. That
Exactly.
is when it's not okay.
And then I'd be really helpful to just sort of touch on briefly about the difference between routines and rhythms, because that's something, you know, how do I put this? So the beds need changing,
Yeah.
but for somebody it might be they'll do it at some point in that week, at some point, and it
Yeah.
might be just strip the bed, just strip it, and then come back to remaking it. You don't have to do it all in one go,
Yeah.
and you don't have to do it the same day every week. It's
No.
what works
For
for
you.
you.
Yeah.
And then I'm just thinking about the other thing, and this kind of all relates to the kind of executive dysfunction. If I can think of things that need replacing as opposed to the dopamine shopping fix,
Yeah.
having that visually, and if you forget it, even if it's written on your phone, your list, on the board or whatever, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You'll get it when the next time. And you've got that intention, but not going down the path of, I should be doing this. I should, all the shoulds,
Yeah.
and doing what works for you.
Yeah.
If it's just too much, just leave it.
Yeah.
Just leave it and come back to it.
Totally. I mean, I worked out quite early on that if I don't have a routine that is set for things like washing the towels, changing the sheets, if I don't have that routine, I forget to do it completely. I'll get to the Sunday and go, oh, I didn't wash the towels this week. Oh, I'll do it next week because I don't want to do it on a Sunday. And then I'd start the next week and something would happen on Monday morning. And before I knew it, it was Sunday again. And the towels had now not been washed for 2 weeks. And this is just getting a bit ridiculous. So I went to the lengths of setting a timer and a reminder on my phone that
Mm.
tells me Monday mornings, you need to put the towels in the wash. And that I kept going for months until I was remembering when I got up in the morning, Monday morning towels. And in
Mm.
fact, if I go away, which doesn't happen very often, but if my husband's here on his own on a Monday morning, he will put the towels in the wash because he knows Monday morning towels. And I know that I'm really bad at leaving laundry piled up everywhere. So what I do is collect all the towels together, replace the hand towels, and then I put all the towels in the wash, put them in the tumble dryer because I'm fortunate enough to have one, and then they go back into the bathrooms. Because if I don't put them back in the bathrooms, we've got no towels to use. So we literally have enough towels for all of us to have one. And there are a couple of spares in the cupboard in case guests come. But apart from that, there's no other towels in our house because if we did, I know very well that I would get into the habit of not putting them away. And the laundry was, and the same with our sheets. We've all got one set of bed sheets and they go into the washing machine, tumble dryer, and then back on the bed that day. Because otherwise, I'd be in all sorts of trouble. I'd have laundry
Mm.
piled up everywhere. So that's what I've worked out works for me with routines. Other people that in my membership that I've advised this is what I do doesn't work for them.
Mm.
And that's fine too. You've got to find what works for you. Whereas other people have actually gone, yeah, that does work for me too. Not for sheets, but for towels, that's a really good idea. So yeah, you just have to play around with it and see what works for you. And it doesn't stress me out having reminders on my phone to do things. It actually makes me feel more in control. And I can always, when the reminder goes off, choose that in this moment it's not a good idea, I'm not going to do it. But I know very well if I don't, it's just not going to happen.
There's
So
there's a lot of habit stacking as well that I'm beginning to hear as well.
huge amount of habit stacking. And this is something else that I train madly. I think I train more on, or coach more on, habits and mindset than I do actually about the decluttering part and the
Mm,
organizing part in my membership. Because if you haven't got those parts down, the mindset and the habits, you are going to be back in chaos within a few months again. And
mm,
what I don't want for anybody that I work with, whether it's in my membership or one-on-one, is that in 6 months' time, they're like, well, that was a waste of time because it didn't work. You've got to do something different if something's going to change.
yeah. And so as we kind of close out, what would be the one bit, if you could pick one bit of advice or insight that you wish more families knew when they were thinking about creating more calm and order in their home? I kind of feel it's more than a declutter.
Oh, it
It's
is.
about creating that calm,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is. I mean, Marie Kondo called her book The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And it is life-changing, and it was life-changing. And that's why I want to support other people. What do I wish they knew? Start impossibly small. That would be my biggest piece of advice. Like, if you think doing the kitchen drawer is small, how much smaller can you make it? Could you just do knives? Could you just do spoons? Like, what is the absolute smallest thing you can start by doing? Because once you get that win, it really motivates you to move on and want to do the next thing. And then you will learn that once you put the pasta on to boil in the evening, and you've got however long you boil pasta for. My kids say 15 minutes is too long, but I always give myself 15 minutes. But what I can do in that 15 minutes in the kitchen, in terms of opening a drawer, optimizing in our case, but if you haven't yet, choose one tiny section of a drawer and just do that for 15 minutes. And if you do that every day for a week, that's a lot of decluttering gone on. And
Yeah.
have a box, or can I do a bonus top tip?
Go on, go on.
Always have a box at hand for donations. Always. So that if anyone in the home finds something that they realize they're not using anymore, it goes straight in the donation box. Otherwise, the danger is things start to pile up around the house to be dealt with. Whereas if you've got a donation box and you can just take it with you in the kitchen while the pasta's boiling, if you find anything, you can just pop it into the box.
Now, the next stage of the donation box is don't drive around with it for 6 months in the boot of your car.
Yeah, exactly. Or leave it in the hallway for 6 months. Yeah.
Having
Yeah,
a
that
bit
is.
of that.
I mean, we could keep going forever about all the things, but again, with that one, you just have to be really intentional. Think through your week. When am I going to be driving near? And then set yourself a reminder for that day around that time that you've got the box in the car and you need to drop it off.
Yeah. So thank you, Caroline, so much. I think what I'm hearing all of this stuff and it's so inspiring. But like you say, having a community and a place of mutual accountability is really helpful. Like, especially if you're thinking it's such an overwhelming start, how do I get going? So
Yeah,
we'll pop your links below in this video in the description to be able to
amazing.
reach out to you and find out more about the community. And yeah, thank you so much. Like I just think I think, in my own journey and with the work that I've done, this does come up with clients. This does come up their environment. And when they've got internal shifts, how that changes the world around them is huge. But that kind of mindset piece and having that encouraged non-judgmental, unconditional positive regard for another human being, to have the space to process the things that need to process. But like you're saying, within community, put the damn thing away. That sounds really fun, and it
is really fun.
It doesn't have to be as hard as we think it's going to be.
No.
Micro steps.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh no, it's been wonderful. We're closing off now. I hope this conversation with Caroline has given you a bit more breathing room, not just about your own home, but about how you view yourself. Because clutter is rarely about the stuff. It's about our stories, our energy, and our expectations. And if this episode has got you thinking about living with a bit more clarity and ease and more confident in your own wiring, then I would like to invite you to Wonderland. Wonderland is a beautiful coaching program that I've designed for neurodivergent minds and for the deep feelers and deep thinkers. There's more about this program with a link in the show notes and a link in the bio. And finally, please like, comment and share. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave a review and give some stars, because that creates better visibility and more people could be potentially helped by this episode. So apples don't fall far from trees, and there's never just one.